This week on Full Circle Florida, pushing the limits of power. In his first week back in office, President Donald Trump signing an avalanche of executive orders, from immigration to pardoning January 6 attackers. Which ones will be challenged and which ones will stick? Our panel is here to talk us through it all. The Trump economy and you. How will the president's policies, from tariffs to deregulation, impact your bottom line at home? And what should you be doing right now to plan for the year ahead? This week, my conversation with John Wax, financial expert at Waller & Wax Advisors. And the Homefront reality check. What exactly does the housing market look like right now in Florida? And what is the outlook for 2025? Will interest rates go down? Who's winning right now, buyers or sellers? Real estate broker Vincent Arcuri is here to explain everything. Welcome in, everyone, here to Full Circle Florida. President Trump's first week back in the Oval Office, so a lot to talk about. Let's get right to our panel. He is a reporter with Axios Tampa Bay. Jacob Reyes is back with us this week, and the distinguished USF political science professor, Dr. Susan McManus. There's so much to get to. This first week was an avalanche of executive orders. President Trump signing this blitz of executive orders. On immigration, I just want to quickly go through this. He designated an invasion across the southern border, allowing U.S. military to act as border enforcement. So that's in motion now. He redefined birthright citizenship under the 14th Amendment. The Trump order asserts that a child born in the U.S. is not a citizen if the mom does not have legal immigration status or is in the country legally, and if the father is not a U.S. citizen or lawful resident. That order is already being challenged, as we know, in federal court right now. So will Trump's immigration orders stick, or will these get picked apart in the courts in the weeks and the months ahead?
I mean, I think it's definitely going to depend on how big and how sweeping, right? So, I mean, with his birthright citizenship, this is something that he floated in his first term, right? Mm-hmm. And a lot of legal experts were debating whether or not that's even possible. So I think what we'll see here is some of the more big sweeping things that will get headlines, might not actually happen.
Could this get messy, Susan? No one should be surprised by any of this. I mean, this is what he said he was going to do.
Absolutely, and that's what the public is willing to take a look at and see how it plays out.
So President Trump also pardoned the January 6 rioters, including the one who assaulted Capitol Police Officer Brian Sicknick, who died a day after the attack, had multiple strokes. The officer's brother called the move a, quote, betray of decency, said President Trump is a, quote, poor excuse of a man. Why did the president do this? I mean, he could have let this go, or at least the ones that committed, the violent acts. He signed all these other executive orders that really do deserve attention and that voters really did want. I don't know if anyone elected Donald Trump so he could pardon a bunch of rioters, especially ones that attacked officers. Even his own vice president wasn't willing to go that far as recently as last week. So what is this all about?
Well, one thing, the problem is a blanket pardon. Many people were willing to have pardons for people that didn't assault a police officer. And there was the problem. Now, why he suddenly decided, I'm just going to go and blanketly pardon everyone, maybe it was in the moment or whatever, but there is now a price to be paid because some of the groups that supported him in running for office, law enforcement, are very angry about that.
But again, should anyone be surprised by this? I mean, I was not surprised by it. I mean, he kind of telegraphed what he was going to do all along. I mean,
Well, I mean, if you look at how he's painted the legal system as a witch hunt, as a persecution, I mean, for him not to pardon some and not others, it would be to add legitimacy to a system that he's so doubting throughout the campaign trail.
And one of the reasons he thought he could do it was, let's face it, the last-minute pardons by Biden.
The president also threatening 25% tariffs on Canada and Mexico goods as of February 1st. I know this is a negotiating tactic. Could this backfire and cause more inflation and economic pain to the very people that voted him in? I mean, how far are you willing to take this?
Well, one thing for sure is the economists themselves are split on the tariff issue. But as was explained to me, the fact of the matter is a lot of it depends on how much of your business is being affected by how much coming in from the other country, exports, imports, the balance there. So if it's an issue or an item that we don't really produce that much of, and somebody else importing it. The key here, as I understand it, is don't do anything that will take American jobs away or harm business.
Yeah, first rule, don't cause any more harm, right?
Right.
Yeah.
What do you make of the president's strategy to sign all of these orders at once? I get, look, it's the Trump show. You want to put on the show. Here we go. Forget the 100 days. It's day one. But I wonder if some of this gets lost in the shuffle because you're throwing so much all at once at the American people that they almost don't get a chance to digest some of these and what they're going to do.
This is one of the most popular things out there right now. He hit the ground running. He said he was going to do X, Y, Z, and now he's doing it. The public had been prepared for it because the last 2 or 3 months he'd been talking about it and giving speeches and rallies and so forth. And to delay would have been a real mess.
I think this is also his answer to the fact that, he's really perpetuated this thing, where's Biden been? Where's Biden been? So he's like, now we're back to actually governing.
So you go from 0 to 60 in the blink of an eye, day one. All right, guys, hang with me next here in Full Circle Florida. Rubio and DeSantis and the rise of 2 Florida star politicians. Next. Welcome back in as we bring our panel back in. Marco Rubio, he goes from the State House to the U.S. Senate to now really one of the most powerful people in the United States, the leader of the nation's foreign policy and Secretary of State. What do you make of Rubio's rise, how he's managed to turn himself into an enemy of Donald Trump to now his trusted Secretary of State? It's quite the story here.
2 words, foreign policy. He is masterful in his in-depth knowledge of what's going on around the world, but particularly a part of the world that's starting to elevate, meaning Latin America. And of course, Trump was able to watch that issue start to elevate, and Cuba was a big part of the gaining of the Latino vote in South Florida. So it all fits together. His expertise, the subject matter, and the fact that he got, obviously, unanimous support from
a lot of
senators.
Room. Yes, there exactly on both sides. And right. I looked at those hearings and I'm like, there's a lot of room. He's got like a new life now. There's a lot of potential there for him over these next 4 years and looking beyond the horizon, what could happen after that?
Well, I think he's done a really good job at drawing close to the sun that is Trump without getting burned. I mean, you look at Matt Gaetz, who also went through the legislature and made it all the way up, but he got to the right of Trump. And frankly, I mean, what happened there?
Didn't work out. Yeah, it'll be interesting to see what happens with Rubio. That's a big job for him. Meanwhile, Governor DeSantis seems eager to get into President Trump's attention, at least this week, referring to the Gulf of Mexico as the Gulf of America. We'll see if that sticks. How much of this year's legislative session is going to be about getting things done for Floridians who are facing these increased cost of living, the bad condo law, and how much of it is going to be about impressing Donald Trump from DeSantis' point of view?
I think we've already started to see a bit of lame duck Governor Ron DeSantis in the sense that he's looking to draw attention to himself. I think you've definitely seen this with the special session, right? Where he calls it, right, on a week that nobody's supposed to be in Tallahassee with no draft bills in his initial call. So what we see here is he's definitely looking for some clout to kind of pattern him up for something else.
Is he thirsty for attention, Susan, or is this just how you play the game?
That's how you play the game, but let's be real. Every governor loves to have a president from their own state because it allows them a voice and to bring things back to the state. That's one. And obviously a second one is that the president himself is going to look at DeSantis and may need some inquiries about things that have worked in Florida or people to know or whatever. So I see both of them as looking at the other one as being useful politically.
Easier to be Ron DeSantis than Gavin Newsom right now, I would imagine, given the current climate. Guys, thank you. Coming up next on Full Circle Florida, the Trump economy and you, what to expect and what not to. Welcome back to Full Circle Florida. You know, at this point, there's really nothing wrong with asking the question, what's in this for you? After all, politicians spend a lot of time and money trying to convince you that they have all the answers to your problems and only they can fix things. The fun part for President Trump is over. It's one thing to run on promises. It's another to actually deliver. So as we all wait to see how the new Trump administration performs in one of its biggest promises, improving the U.S. economy, this week, I spoke with financial advisor John Wax on the bottom line for you.
Hi, Donald John Trump.
John, what should we expect in the Trump economy? It does seem like a lot of changes are coming our way. What are you looking forward to or looking out for in 2025?
You know, we're sticking on the optimism side. because yes, there are going to be a lot of changes planned, but in general, these initiatives are considered pro-growth. So as long as they're done in appropriate ways, in an effective manner, we're taking the optimistic approach.
How much of the success of an economy is under a president's control, no matter if it's Democrat or Republican, and how much of what we feel is actually market forces and cycles? In other words, if you're betting on the economy, are you betting on an effective president and his vision, or is it something bigger than that?
That's actually a great question, because a lot of people think the political landscape has a major impact on the economy and the market, and it doesn't. It's probably less than 10% impact. And the market is not concerned about whether things are good or are they bad. It's only worried about whether it thinks things are getting better or getting worse.
Well, people talk, I've even had, people say, well, the stock market is not the ultimate measure of the economy. And I get that, that is true. But a lot of people do have their 401ks or their retirement funds, or even the company they work for. Their financial success, their outlook, whether they're going to hire or not, is somewhat tied to how their stock is performing. Is that inaccurate, or?
No, it's accurate. In fact, you can look at the market as a whole, and it's kind of a barometer of what investors are thinking. So if the market goes down a lot, there's a lot of fear there. So you can get an idea of how everyone's thinking. And yeah, the stock prices have an impact for businesses as far as their ability to use it as capital for other types of commerce that they do. One
of the reasons I love having you on the show is that you're able to distill the politics out and extract that away from making money and financial decisions. So politics aside, I preface this question: whether you voted for Donald Trump or you did not vote for Donald Trump, he is talking about imposing tariffs. It would appear as a negotiating tactic for some of these other countries. And if just from an investment standpoint, how might that impact you if you've got certain money tied up in certain areas? What would you tell somebody if they're asking you that for advice?
So tariffs aren't supposed to be a tool to bring in revenue. Tariffs are a tool you use in negotiations, if you will. And if that's the course they're going to take, this could be a very good thing as far as modifying our trade imbalance and making us, stronger in the global marketplace. If these tariffs are put in place and they're left long term, they represent an increase of cost for the consumer as the product comes in. And the longer they're left in place, there'll be tariffs by the other countries against us. So in the long run, tariffs are inflationary. That is indisputable.
So it's a risk versus reward.
Yeah.
Does the ends justify the means? This is what is being calculated in the White House or in the administration right now. How far are they willing to take this, and what are they going to get for it in return, and how does it impact?
Exactly. Basically, the ends justify the means if you can get to that end.
Bottom line, what would you recommend people do in the weeks and months ahead in 2025? I know the conventional wisdom before the election, especially during the time between the election and Inauguration Day, was don't make any dramatic moves. But what about in 3 months, 5 months, 6 months?
I would say that if you have a long-term plan for what you want to do with your portfolio, stick with that. Because whatever happens in the next 3, 6, 9 months, next couple of years, that's going to happen, and the market will ebb and flow. So if we see the market drop, use it as an opportunity to deploy more capital at cheaper prices. But otherwise, stick with your long-term allocation.
You got to invest like a pilot flies a plane, like Captain Sully.
Yeah.
You just nerves of steel, right?
You do. It takes that.
Steady waters. All
Sometimes,
right.
yeah.
John Wax, thank you for being with us today.
My
Appreciate
pleasure.
it. Thank you. We move next to your front door and what this new White House means for the housing market in Florida. Here's my conversation this week with real estate broker Vincent Arcuri. A lot of people are looking at the new Trump administration and trying to make out how it is going to impact them directly. And here's something that could impact them literally right at their front door. When you look at the current real estate market, what is the reality right now, and how might the new White House under Trump have some tentacles into the real estate market and impact it for the everyday person?
Well, I think, obviously the interest rates are high, and when you're looking at the staggering inflation that we've had the last 4 years, it's definitely impacted the real estate market. one of the things I think with Trump is he does seem to be a cheerleader and he's more hands-on. He puts a lot of pressure to get these rates to move. As we know, presidents certainly don't have the power to automatically wave a magic wand, but they do put certain influences on people, and any amount that the interest rate comes down is going to assist the real estate market.
They're around 7%, I guess, give or take a fraction. I say that's high, but there are people that knew what the 70s were like, and they were double digits. So it's all relative, but compared to what we have been used to, that's not exactly incentivizing people to spend a lot of money on a house.
Exactly. When you're looking at these marginal cuts that we've seen the last year, it really hasn't really moved the needle as much. And then when you impact our area where you've had the back-to-back storms, now you see inventory stacking up. You see the issues that we had talked about with the condominium market that are really going to start impacting inventory. It does start to have a long-term effect.
What are you seeing there in that sector? Because the condo market it really is tumultuous right now, and I think a lot of people are waiting to see what lawmakers can accomplish in this legislative session.
Well, you see a lot of the inventory up right now in Tampa, our Tampa Bay area, 25,000 listings, most that we've seen since 2000. A lot of that condominium market and a lot of that older condominium markets that are units that are really subject to the milestone reports as opposed to the newer units. So those units with the escalating HOAs and things that they have to do to make those, the work they have to put into these buildings, causing their monthly, the homeowners to go up, that's really what's causing the step away from a potential buyer. So until that's resolved, I think you're going to continue to see these older units, condominiums, be a hard sell.
Yeah, I mean, no one wants to buy right now until they know what is this going to look like on the other side when it comes to this law that has to be worked out.
Right. Well, when you see what happened in Miami, I mean, safety is first above all else, and it's going to be, I would be a little apprehensive about buying it. I want to make sure the building's going to be standing there tomorrow.
Bottom line for people right now as they look out into the next year and make their plans, if you're a buyer, what should your expectations be? And if you're a seller, what realistic expectations should you have?
Well, I think sellers really need to get a grip on the fact that they're not getting what they want anymore. That there used to be that you'd have bidding wars, you would have multiple offers, and now, I mean, you could have your home priced right and you could be on the market 3 months and not get an offer. So I think they need to get realistic on the downtrending market, which we haven't seen in probably a decade in the Tampa Bay area, and it is trending down. And for a buyer, now's the time to jump in, because just the opposite of that is when the rates do drop, you're going to have those bidding wars again and property values are going to escalate. So you're better to buy now and refinance later rather than get caught up in the bidding war, which is going to offset any money that you're going to save by the interest rates going down.
Time is money, money is time. Vincent Arcuri, thank you for walking us through it all. Appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.
Our final thoughts when we come back. Welcome back to Full Circle Florida. Final thoughts on this first week of the second Trump administration. Susan, what are you left with?
An incredible inauguration. Nothing went right as planned, but it worked, and it had a lot of people who are very happy and some that are sad, but it was an incredible moment in American history.
I wonder if this sets the precedent, Jacob, of forget 100 days, it's what you do on day one, because it was just like right after that, everything happened.
I think he was waiting for this moment all these 4 years, and I think my final thought in all of this is what role Florida is going to play. It already seems like we have a big role with the cabinet picks. It'd be interesting to see what these next 4 years look like in the Sunshine State.
And we talk, I mean, obviously day one happened, week one happened. Looking just a little bit down the road, the next few weeks, is it just about digesting what he's signed into action here and how it plays out, or should we be expecting more major decisions from him?
We're certainly going to be watching what he does, but most importantly, he's going to be going to some places across the country where there's a crisis and people need help.
Los Angeles, and not necessarily Trump territory. So
and North Carolina as well.
And North Carolina, and he did mention that. Guys, thank you so much for being with us. Appreciate it. Thank you for watching us here on Full Circle Florida. We hope you will join us again here next week. Have a great week, everyone. Take care.